Morgan, thank you so much for being on the show with me again. It is always fun to talk to you. Remind everybody who you are and what you do.
Yes, thank you so much for having me again. So my name is Morgan, and I'm the founder of Rogue Preparedness, and I help people be prepared for everyday life and emergencies and disasters and whatever.
Yeah, whatever life throws your way, you're ready
Yeah.
for it.
Yep.
So the buzz phrase for the past, it seems like eternity, has been supply chain issues. So
Mhm.
on your website, you did a very good overview of what that actually is. Can you share with us what the actual supply chain is so we can kind of understand what's going on?
Yeah, the supply chain, it's a long chain of basically, so you're looking at a product, even just looking at something like this, like you're just looking at a very simple product, it seems like, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, it's sourcing it's actually first design if you really want to get down to it,
Sure.
but then it's sourcing the all the material on everything that's used here, and then it's manufacturing it, and then it's distributing it, and then it's getting all of these things into the stores that it's being distributed to. But in order to get to those places, it's flown, or it's driven with truck drivers, or boats, or whatever the case may be. So it before it even gets to you in your hand, there's a whole bunch of steps that have to happen before that, and anywhere along those steps could be disrupted for any reason. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we get an example is we get a lot of our supplies from China, and so
Right.
that's really far away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're getting supplies from China and there's a disruption there, then that's going to be a big disruption. And then there were cargo ships that were being held just like right outside, like the Washington ports, and Alaska, and all these ports, and they're just literally being held there, and they're claiming because of COVID and that kind of stuff. But you know, anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Truck drivers can be delayed because of hurricanes, or
Right.
um, whatever.
Yeah. So it
Literally,
it it kind of like when we look at all this, we kind of see how it's a delicate balance just to
hmm
get something on the shelf, right?
yeah, it's huge. And then it's when we're talking about food, that's even more unpredictable, because natural disasters really play a big part in that, because you can't control nature. Sure, you might be able to
Right.
control your crop when everything is perfect, but you can't control a flood coming, or a tornado coming and ripping through your crops, or whatever. So it's always mother nature to contend with, pretty much at all
Right.
times.
And that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. So, like, we have a stress system. I mean, you and I are not economists, but we can say as consumers, our system is kind of stressed right now. So, if we do have a hurricane, wildfire, blizzard, that
Mhm.
could put us in bad shape for a little while, right?
Yeah, and it's not just us that it's putting in bad shape for, but we produce food for our animals that we consume as well. So it's the animal feed and feed for us, and whatever else that we're making. And then there's always COVID that's still happening. And so it's just kind of a lot of kind of threats to the kind of ecosystem, that we've been
Right.
so accustomed to. So yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like in such a fragile state, if we have like, one more thing could really just kind of we could lose not having pasta for a while or something like
Yeah.
that. Like it could be
Yeah.
gone off the shelf.
Yeah.
Um, so when I started telling people that, hey, I think there's going to be supply issues back at like Thanksgiving, and people are like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, maybe. And then Thanksgiving comes, and there's some things not on the shelf that I'm seeing, and every time I go, there's more and more empty places on the shelf. Now, we are still blessed in America to have the food that we do. I'm
Yeah.
not complaining. So, why does the average American family need to prep food in our current climate?
So usually there's a trickle down effect. Like for example, in last July of 2021, they were already saying that there were going to be coffee shortages due to it was like a really, really hot a really, really hot time, and it was like ruining a lot of the plants, that kind of thing. And then like, anyway, just some temperature fluctuations. And so that's a trickle down. You're not going to immediately see that for, several more months.
Mm.
And then you will see most likely an increase along with shortages because it's in such short demand. So you don't want to be stuck in those points in which something is happening to corn or rice or pasta or whatever's happening, because a lot of these things, well, not all, a lot, all of these things are out of our control. Unless you physically are growing the crop yourself, you have little to no control over this stuff. So you want to see what is on the shelf and say, look, there's a can of corn on the shelf. I should probably get 1 or 2 cans, while I see it. And, don't go into debt or anything, but having a little bit of extra has really never hurt anybody.
Right.
My friend the other day was just saying that they got sick and they didn't have to go to the store or do anything because they had everything they needed right there. They didn't have to do anything. So just little things like that even.
Right.
And
Yeah, it's a convenience, like you were just
yeah,
saying. It's not only is it smart, it's a convenience. But yeah.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just for anything, a job loss. I
Mm.
mean, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
have been laid off. I understand how that goes and how sudden that can be. So
yeah.
let me tell you something that happened to me probably about 2 weeks ago. And that's kind of what got us talking here today. I was standing in the middle of the grocery store and I was like, okay, I need to get some stuff, some extra stuff to bring home to the pantry so that I can make sure my family has food. And then it was like, what on earth do I get? So,
Mhm.
Morgan, if I want to start, go ahead and just making sure that I have a nice pantry full of stuff, what do I need to be grabbing and putting in my cart?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Basically, you need to try to find non-perishable items of things that you eat frequently. So, if you eat a lot of fresh foods, that's totally fine. So do we. So do a lot of people. Like if you eat, fresh, corn, maybe you'll find the canned version of that corn. So that you have that non-perishable version of it on the shelf or on your shelf. And so look to what you eat. What do you eat on a regular basis? Bread, you can throw a couple extra loaves in your freezer or learn how to bake it or whatever. Peanut butter, you can grab a few extra things of peanut butter. Do you eat a lot of pastas and rice? Those are really good non-perishable things. Sugars are always sugars and salts, nice to have. I just kind of fill your kind of basic pantry. But really look to the meals you already eat, because you're not trying to recreate a whole, apocalyptic food menu. You're trying to just create a non-perishable version of the foods you already eat. And it's pretty simple to stick to your menu that you already have right now.
Right. I like what you're saying is, understand what you eat, what your family enjoys, and make sure you have those things because that makes sense. Because I would be like, man, I need to go buy some canned, pinto beans. And I don't even like
Right.
pinto beans, but like this is a can of food. I know it'll last, but I'm probably never going to eat it. It's just going to take up room on the shelf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a
Right.
really good example. Like my kids really love mac and cheese, so I stock up on that.
Everybody loves mac and
So
cheese. Yeah.
yeah.
So you kind of hinted at this a little while ago. Not everything is going to last forever.
Mhm.
The food that we buy, even some of the stuff that does have a really long shelf life, it's not going to be there forever. So, what are some ways that we can extend the life of the food that we buy?
So canned foods, they can last well past the best by dates. It does depend on the type of food. Low acidic foods will last longer. Um, High acidic foods like tomatoes and things like that may not last as long, but it'll still last a little bit past the best by dates, things like that. So you can pretty much expect that most of the things you buy, as long as they're non-perishable, will get past those best by dates. But if you really want to extend the shelf life of some things, then you might want to look into either vacuum sealing or Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. So then you would put dry goods into the vacuum sealer or Mylar bags, like rice and beans if you like beans. And then flour, sugar, salt, anything else, pastas. I do wheat berries and I grind it up for the flour, corn, dry corn, so you can grind it up into the cornmeal, that kind of thing. So just dried goods into those Mylar bags, and you can really extend that shelf life.
Cool. And you bring up the point of having the Mylar bags. Not all, preparing your food or prepping your food is going to be actual food items. Are there any like appliances that we need to be investing in as well?
Yeah. So I like to look at my items that I use every day. So like I use a KitchenAid, but I was thinking the other day, what if I didn't have a KitchenAid to help me? I couldn't use my KitchenAid. Well, they have like a little manual egg beater that you can just, use. It's maybe not going to be perfect, but it's actually pretty good.
Right.
And then there's like manual coffee grinders, and there's a manual grain mill, like I was talking about, for the you can use that for the corn, or you can use it for beans and a whole bunch of other stuff. But some type of manual mill, excuse me. And then just any type of the other manual items, like if you use a coffee maker, then you want to get like a pour over or something like that. Just kind of think of a little alternatives to what you already have, and find the manual versions of that. But keep using your good stuff, right?
It's always good to have those backups. So
Yeah.
for anybody listening, are you giving us permission to go and buy a chest freezer? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, buy the biggest one you can get.
Park the
Buy
car
a
outside.
couple.
You put it in a room, dedicate its own room to itself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Having the extra freezer is nice. Or even if you have a gosh, we just had to replace our refrigerator. So you can take
Oh,
your old refrigerator and throw it somewhere and use what you have already.
yeah,
Uh
exactly.
that's pretty good. So when you were first starting all of this and understanding how important it was to prep your food, what was one thing that you wish someone had told you when you were starting out?
That's a good question. I kind of wish there was a little bit more detail about like moisture content. I
Hmm.
didn't really know like a whole lot about like the perfect temps and the moisture content and that kind of thing. Like it was just like store that rice and beans and that's it. And I was just like, well, what about like, sugars and salts and, things that may have a little more moisture and that kind of thing. And those don't take oxygen absorbers. But, when I was first starting, some of that information was out there, but it wasn't like, to the extent of, that it is now. But also like, like how much I need to store for certain things. Like if I make a loaf of bread a week, well, how much flour do I need for, a loaf of bread a week, so that I've started to actually literally calculate things out. Like, okay, if I use 4 cups of flours for this bread, then I'm going to need, you know, 8 cups of flour for the week or whatever, for all the bread that I want to make or whatever the case it may be. So, and there was really nothing like that when I first started. So yeah, I'm trying to get the word out about calculating and all that
Sure.
stuff.
I feel like a lot of the stuff that you're talking about are these skills that seem to have disappeared from American households because
Mhm.
I'm blessed in the fact that my wife knows how to do those sorts of things. She knows how to calculate. She's a very talented cook.
Mhm.
She enjoys it. I don't have those skills. So,
Mhm.
I'm always appreciative of those. So when you're thinking about some of these skills that have kind of disappeared out of the American household, where is a place? Is there a book? Is there a YouTube channel? I know that you do stuff on YouTube. Is there somewhere that people can go to kind of regain this knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, there's just these days, I don't think there's anything that we can't learn on the internet. And so if you just do a basic search, you can find just about anything. And but I want to caution people that I want you to actually learn these skills. And what that means is don't just go and search them and read about them. And unless you can't do something like, you want to
Hmm.
read about how to garden, but you can't garden yet. Fine, whatever, research. But I actually want you to take action too, because you can get research paralysis,
Yes.
and take action on something. It doesn't have to be what you're researching, but just take action, because that's what overwhelms people the absolute most, is just not doing anything. Researching and researching, all these skills that, oh, I want to learn this one day. Well, just pick a skill and learn it. Just go bake some bread. It's not that you will discover it's not as complicated as it sounds or looks. It's really not.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You say that, and I tried to make a loaf of bread in 2020 like everybody else, and I didn't do it so well. So I had to like dump it out and start over again. But I took action. And the
Yes.
first one didn't work, but the second one did, and it was pretty good. It was
There
pretty
you
good.
go. See, you
Yeah.
learn and you try it again, and there you go.
That's
Voila.
education right there. You got to
Exactly.
fail at something sometimes to learn how to do it right. So
Exactly.
take action. I like that. You don't have to grow an entire beautiful garden all at one time. If you just start with tomatoes and cucumbers one year, you
Mhm.
move on to the next one. So
Exactly. Yep.
that's good. So you and I have collaborated on a free download for everybody, and you have given us a ton of fantastic information. I can't take credit for any of the information in this download. This is 100% you. Tell us about the information that you've given to us and how we can use it.
So this download has it has a little bit of shelf life information. It also has a whole list of like a whole bunch of canned foods and pantry staples, and just kind of give you an idea of what type of food might be out there. And I really want you to take this list and write your own list. So, look at those pantry staples, look at those canned goods, get out another sheet of paper and say, well, I like soups. I want to buy some soups. I like, flour. I'm going to get some flour. I don't know. So look at those staples, and then write your own list. And this is basically going to be a grocery list for you.
Mhm.
And then you're just going to go start at the top and just buy like, one or two things every time you're at the grocery store. Don't overdo it. Don't go crazy. Just buy like a couple things every time you're at the store, and it's going to add up so fast. So use this download to basically as a guide for you when you go shopping and for your preps.
And that is definitely needed. So for everybody who's listening who said, man, I wish I knew more about what she was saying, this download is absolutely going to help you. Plus, Morgan does a lot of amazing work online everywhere. So Morgan, tell everybody where they can find out more about you and Rogue Preparedness.
Yes, thank you. If you head to my website, roguepreparedness.com, I'm also on Instagram. You can just search Rogue Preparedness. I should pop up. And then YouTube, youtube.com/something. Just search Rogue Preparedness. And I also have a podcast as well. Just search the Rogue Preparedness podcast, and it'll all pop up.
Yeah, and I was on Morgan's show, I guess last year at some point, and I just made the offhanded comment, I can talk about anything, just don't ask me to do math. And I
Right.
kind of meant that as a joke. And what does Morgan do? The first thing is, it was like a train leaves Vermont at 10 a.m. and I'm like, oh, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I gotta bust you.
Well, Morgan, I appreciate your time. Thank you for what you're doing and for sharing your knowledge with family.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. And I hope everyone will go download that free download and everything else you have to offer, because you got a lot of cool stuff.
No, well, I appreciate that, Morgan. Thank you.